Hello, welcome back to another Mafia Romance Monday video. Thank you so much for joining me today. Last month I talked about completed series that I'd also completed and would recommend to you as series that you can absolutely binge. Today I thought I would do the opposite, which is series that have been completed that I've started but I haven't actually finished but really want to. So I'm going to kick straight off today with the very first one, which is a really classic Mafia Romance series. In fact, I very much believe this one to be a saga, which is Morelli Family by Sam Mariano. Now, there are actually 9 books in total that you can read in this series, but really it's the first 1 through to 7 that tells the complete story. Books 8 and 9, I believe, are either kind of extended epilogues or additional stories from these characters. I've only read books 1 through 3, and I'm still really waiting for the shoe to drop, because of course this is a Sam Mariano story. It's very well known and very well loved, particularly the main character throughout this story, who is Matteo Morelli and very much head of this family. In books 1, 2 and 3 we start to see a bit of Morelli, and I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop because I'm expecting this series to get quite dark, very twisty and turny. And of course Matteo is not a good man. We've seen him do some very questionable, morally grey things so far, but also there's very much a sense of empathy towards him because we see that yes, he can be quite cruel. He's definitely very ambitious and wants to maintain the seat of the family, but he's also very paranoid, quite lonely. He can't really trust anyone, and so we really feel quite empathetic towards him, or at least I do. So like I said, I've been enjoying this series so far. It's not blown me away, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I really want to make my way through the rest of this series to find out exactly what happens and what all the fuss is all about, because I know that Matteo Morelli is definitely up there as one of Sam Mariano's most revered, most loved villains throughout all of her stories. The next series that I want to finish is the Frost Industries series by Montana Fyre, and I've got this beautiful special edition copy here that I picked up from Rare, and as you can see, that's signed in the book there. It's a very delicate book. I'm definitely not going to be reading this. This is definitely a trophy for my shelves, but I definitely want to make my way through this series for sure. And the reason for that is because I've only actually read the first book in this series. So it's a 4-book series in total. I've only read the first book, which is When It Rains, but I discovered Montana Fyre earlier this year when I read a stalker romance, and I absolutely loved it. And that stalker romance was a spin-off from this series, and I just really loved her writing style, loved the characters that had been presented to me, and I wanted to dive into this one. So like I say, I picked up book 1 in the series, really enjoyed it. Now I have this sort of special edition copy here, and like I say, I really want to carry on reading through the rest of this series. From the 2 books that I've read so far, Montana Fyre definitely writes these sort of morally grey heroes, but they fall for their heroines very quickly, become absolutely obsessed and very possessive over their women, and will stop at nothing to get them. But they're not cruel, they're not kind of evil sort of characters. They're just absolutely single-minded and focused on their pursuit of their woman, and will literally do anything for them. Really not taking no for an answer, but not quite as strongly as, say, a Sam Mariano hero. Very much more like, I am going to do everything I can to convince you that you are the one for me and we need to be together. So quite a lot of her heroes do a lot of stalking, and, you know, like I say, very obsessed over their women and will totally interject themselves into their lives so that their women have no choice but to fall in love with them right back. Next up, a series that I started earlier this year, and the very first book was a 5-star read for me, and that was The Brit by Jodi and Malpas, and this is book 1 in the Unlawful Men series, of which there are 5 books in total. So I'd had this one on my TBR for absolutely forever. I was really putting it off for some unknown reason. I cannot explain to you why, but eventually I did pick this one up, like I said, earlier this year, and read it and absolutely loved it, gave it 5 stars. And so of course I am very keen to continue with this series, because even if they're only slightly as good as this one, I think I'll absolutely love it. And again, this was a book that I picked up at London when I went to Rare, and also had the pleasure of meeting Jodi and Malpas, and she signed this copy for me. So I absolutely love this one. In this book we were following Rose and Danny. And in this one we were kind of introduced to this particular sort of mafia world, and definitely some of the other characters that coming up in the other books have already kind of been identified, signposted, so we know some of the characters at least that are going to appear, and we know that Danny is definitely going to be making an appearance at some point in the rest of this series as well, which I cannot wait for because he's an absolutely fantastic character. Both he and Rose are extremely damaged characters. They've been through a lot. They are dealing with a lot of trauma from their past, but somehow together they're able to fall in love and heal each other and kind of really understand each other and have a lot of empathy, which really kind of shone through in this book, and I absolutely fell in love with these characters in this story. It was a very hard read. It was very difficult to read because of the things that these two had been through, but it meant then that the HEA was absolutely fantastic. I just loved the ending to this book. Another absolutely standout read that I read this year as well was books 1 and 2 in the Kids of the District series by Nicci Harris. I have absolutely loved everything I've read by Nicci Harris so far. I've only actually read 4 books from her, this duet and the first 2 books in her Cradled Commons series that she's currently writing, but this duet absolutely blew me away. I loved it from the very first page, and this duet is based on the same couple. It follows Max Butcher and Cassidy, and this whole series really follows the Butcher brothers. So this first duet, it is Our Thing and Cosa Nostra, like I say. It follows Max Butcher and Cassidy, who's a ballerina. Fantastic read, 5 stars. And then the other book, so book 3 is Brunson Butcher's story. Then we get another duet, books 4 and 5 is Clay Butcher's story. And then 6 we get Xander Butcher's story. So like I say, this one absolutely blew me away. I absolutely loved it. It was unique because this was set in Australia and we don't get too many Australian mafia romances, and Max Butcher was a very, very intense sort of hero that I really like. He was very cold and dismissive of most of the other characters in this story, apart from Cassidy, who he absolutely fell in love with, and the relationship that these two had was just so amazing. You really, really felt the chemistry between this couple, the longing and the love between this couple as well, and the things that they had to do in order to be together, and the sacrifices that Max was prepared to make for her were really, really touching. A very emotional read, particularly book 2, and definitely had me crying. And so, like I said, I absolutely love Nicci Harris's writing and really want to continue with this series. Now, the next series that I've started but want to finish is the Maid series by Danielle, Laurie, and The Sweetest Oblivion is the first book in this particular series. It's just a 3-book series. Unfortunately, Danielle, Laurie's author career was cut short, and we probably will never get any more books from her, but I have read the first 2 books in this 3-part series. I absolutely loved both books. Both books were 5-star reads for me. I absolutely love the intensity of her writing. The kind of pining and tension and chemistry between the couples in these books is palpable. It just absolutely oozes off the page, and the heroes are so intense and so focused on our heroines. It just, you know, just gave me all the feels when I read this book, and I absolutely loved it. It was kind of a series that I was putting off because people had said it was a great series, but book 1 wasn't quite as good as book 2. And so of course, because I wanted to read it in order, I was kind of like stalling to read past book 1. But I shouldn't have worried because book 1 is absolutely brilliant. Like I say, the hero in this one, his name was Nicholas, and he was so intense. It's just the absolute type of hero that I really, really love. And the kind of quiet moments between these couple really kind of worked on the page. You know, they'd come together at parties and things and stand next to each other, and they kind of spoke really without words, were so in tune with one another, but there was also this great tension between them as well. After that one, I obviously went on to read book 2, which is The Maddest Obsession. This was also another great read, and the hero Christian in this one was absolutely fantastic as well. Again, a very kind of morally grey, kind of dark sort of hero. A lot of push and pull between this couple, and their relationship kind of spans a number of years before they finally are able to get together, but their encounters make for a very interesting story indeed. And the book that I'm waiting to read, I actually have it in my possession. It is right here. This is The Darkest Temptation. I really, really desperately want to read this book, but I am putting it off because I want to save this one. You know, you can only read a book for the first time once, and I know I'm going to absolutely love it, so I just really, really want to savour this one, knowing of course that it's the last book that I'll probably ever read from Danielle Laurie, and just really want to savour that tension. But I'm saving it for a rainy day, for a day when I really need something that I know I'm going to love. I hope it won't be too long before I pick this one up, but equally I'm not in a massive rush to read it right this second, mainly like I say because I know I'm going to love it, but I just want to savour it, so I'm keeping it for a very special occasion. Okay, so the next series that I've started but have not yet finished is the Chicago Bratva series by Renee. This is book 1 in that series, The Director. Now this was a book that I actually got free at Rare London back in 2023. This has also been signed inside by the author, and it's also free to read on Kindle. It's not on Kindle Unlimited, but it's available to download for free, so you can read the first one, because the rest of the books in the series are not on Kindle Unlimited, so you physically have to buy these ones. They are on the shorter side, which I also love, and based around this Russian Bratva mafia group. The Director, the very first book, is based on the Pacan of this Bratva, and then there are 9 books in total about all the other different members of this particular Bratva family. Now I've read books 1 through to 3, really enjoyed them, definitely want to continue reading through this series, and the only thing that's delaying me from doing that is the fact, like I said, that these are not on Kindle Unlimited. Had they been on Kindle Unlimited, I would have breezed through them all by now. So I definitely will pick these up and continue to read through the story, but I'm going to be doing it at a slower pace just to spread out my spending as we go over there next year, probably, before I pick these up. But this first book I really like. This couple actually meet in a sex club. He is a dominant, she's a submissive, and during their night together she becomes pregnant, and then when he finds out that she's pregnant, he obviously takes her back to his penthouse in Chicago and makes her fall in love with him so that they can start a family together. She's going to be very reluctant, not only because she's a lawyer, but also she doesn't necessarily think that the head of the Bratva is the right father for her child, but nevertheless he is going to you know, bring her around to his way of thinking for sure. So I really like this. Like I say, what I liked about it is Renee Rose's writing is so easy to read. These characters are really great. There's no dramatic plot twist or anything. It's just a great kind of love story, short and easy to read, and yeah, I would definitely recommend. So the next one is an author I've only read a couple of times, but I've really enjoyed what I've read from her so far, and that is an author called Aidee Jaimes, and she writes a lot of cartel romances. The series that I've started and I really want to finish is the 7 Deadly Synacores. This is a 7-book series, as the title of the series suggests, 7 Deadly Synacores, and so far I've read through books 1 and 2. So the first book that I read was Merciless Vows, and that was an arranged marriage dark mafia romance. What I really liked about this one is that it really sets up a backstory where the rest of the series is definitely going to take us through a plot. We've definitely established this kind of group of rival mafia families and this villain who is going around unaliving the heads of these families. And so as we start to go through this series, these families who wouldn't normally work together start to work together because they know that they've got a common enemy and they're trying to figure out who it is and to bring them down. And so what I really liked about this is not only do we get individual romances in these stories, but Aidee Jaimes is really setting up a overarching plot that is really interesting, kept me turning the page, and definitely after I read book 1 I wanted to go on to read book 2 to find out more, and will absolutely be continuing with this series for sure. I just haven't had time yet to squeeze the next one in with all of the other things that I've kind of been committing to read, but it's definitely something of interest to me. I really like her writing style. Nothing revolutionary about her stories, they're pretty standard mafia romances, but like I say, I think she weaves a fantastic plot that really keeps you interested and wanting to figure out who this villain is and how they're going to take him down. So definitely want to continue with this one. Like I said, I've read the first 2, and the next one that I need to read in this series is Cruel Prince, which is book 3, and it's an enemies to lovers story. So I'll keep you posted as I find out more. The next one is another 4-book series, and this is the Chicago Ruthless by Sadie Kincaid. Now Sadie Kincaid is obviously a very popular mafia romance author, and she's been on my list for a long time of someone that I definitely need to start reading because, like I said, she's really popular. I know a lot of people love her books, and I actually read her for the first time earlier this year. So I've only read the first book in this particular particular series, which was Dante, and I did really enjoy it. But I'm very interested to get to Lorenzo's book, because Lorenzo is one that people have recommended to me a few times. I think it's book 3 in this particular series, but it all follows the siblings of the same family. Like I said, I'm mostly intrigued about this one because Sadie Kincaid is so well loved, and I kind of wanted to get into more of her Mafia romances. Dante didn't blow me away. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't kind of like a standout for me. But still, I'm intrigued enough that I want to carry on with this series for sure. And like I say, particularly interested in Lorenzo's book when we get there. So finally then, the last 2 series that I've started and I need to finish are both by the same author, and that is Cora Reilly. So the very first series of hers that I've started and definitely need to finish is the Born in Blood Mafia Chronicles series. This is the first book in this series. I had the pleasure of meeting Cora at a rare event. I think it was the one in Edinburgh last year, so you can see her signature is in there, and absolutely delighted to get my hands on this book for sure. So in total, this is an 8-book series, and I've read through books 1 to 6. So this is a very beloved series. It's one of the old school series, and I think it's an old school Mafia Romance series as well. This first book I absolutely loved. We were following Luca and Aria, and it very much follows the trials and tribulations of the Italian mafia, and throughout this series we find out about these 3 factions, and Luca is part of the Famiglia, who is based out of New York. We learn that they are rivals with the Outfit, based out of Chicago, and they are also enemies with the Camorra, based out of Las Vegas. So this is very much kind of a saga as well, because each book builds kind of on the last, and we start to discover more about these other factions. And this whole series kicks off with Luca and Aria. Like I've said, Luca is head of the Famiglia in New York, and Aria is a mafia princess from Chicago, and they are arranged in marriage to each other to kind of unite these 2 families. But needless to say, things don't go so smoothly, and it doesn't really repair the rift between the Outfit and the Famiglia, and as you'll see, loyalties kind of shift when the Camorra definitely get involved in this as well. And so as we go through this series, like I said, I've read books 1 through 6, and after I finished books 1 through 6, I actually jumped then to start the Camorra Chronicles, because I always wanted to get to this book here, Twisted Pride, which was Remo and Serafina's story. And so this was the book that I'd wanted to get to. This is the book that everyone talks about the most. But of course, to get to this one, if you're going to read them in order, you kind of need to make your way through 10 books. 8 in the Born in Blood series, and then the first 2 in this series, which is the Camorra Chronicles. So this is another one that I've not yet finished. There are 6 books in total in the Camorra Chronicles. I've read books 1 through 4. Now, let me explain. The reason why I only read books 1 through 6 in the Born in Blood before jumping to this one is because of the repetition that has started to appear in the books. Because what Cora Reilly is actually doing is really writing this kind of saga. And so as we go through the series, the first couple of books all focus on different couples, but then Cora Reilly revisits the couples, because of course as time passes and more happens in the plot and storyline of these books, the couples are then affected again. So as an example, Luca and Aria get a HEA at the end of book 1, but Aria betrays Luca in kind of books 2 and 3 in order to help her sisters, and so we revisit their relationship, this time really from Luca's point of view, to really understand how he feels about his wife and what she's done, and try to work out how we can get back to a place where they get their HEA for a second time. And I felt like by the time I'd finished book 6, I'd got everything I needed to know. I understood how all of these families worked and the connection, and I understood the importance of the Camorra family as well in Las Vegas. I very much believe that book 7 is a retelling from Dante's perspective, and Dante, I believe, is the head of the Outfit in Chicago, and then book 8 is actually just kind of like a bonus epilogue book containing additional stories about each of the couples. And so as a result, I didn't feel massively compelled to read book 7 and I wasn't that bothered about reading the epilogue chapters or additional stories from some of these characters either. I was more intent on getting to the Camorra Chronicles, and I have to say I really enjoyed books 1 through 3 immensely. So I actually own books 2 and 3, so I've got Twisted Emotions, which is Nino and Kiara's story, another fan favourite, and like I said, the one I held up before is this one, Twisted Pride, which is Remo and Seraphina's story. Really, truly well worth waiting for. I absolutely love this one. I did go on to read book 4 because, again, it revisits Nino and Kiara's relationship, so I felt like I kind of wanted to finish their duet, if you like, because I very much considered it in my head as a bit of a duet, and I really wanted to kind of round out their relationship. However, it didn't quite hit the mark like books 2 and 3 had for me, and I know that all of the reviews and all of the comments that I've heard from other booktubers telling me that Twisted Pride is really the pinnacle, the highlight of Cora Reilly's writing, and don't necessarily rate books 5 and 6 in this series. So like I said, these 2 series, and I'll hide them up here, Born in Blood and the Camorra Chronicles are completed series from Cora, and they are ones that I've definitely read quite a few books from. So 6 in this series, 4 in this series, so 10 books in total. And I do intend to eventually someday finish these off, just because I'm a completionist and just feel compelled to do so. But I'm also not in a hurry to do it because of reviews that I've heard about those additional books. However, let me know in the comments down below what you recommend. Do you think I should finish these series? If you've read them, how well did you like them? Let me know if it's actually worth me forging on and finishing them. I will be open and honest and say I don't have any intention of reading her second generation stories, because I know that they are of great disappointment to a lot of fans of the original 2 series that she did, and so I kind of want to leave Cora on a high from that perspective. But I have read a couple of her more recent books which have been okay, and also I am going to go back and read a couple of from her back catalogue as well. I do own Sweet Temptation, so I'm going to be reading that, and another one that someone has recently recommended to me as well. So not the end for me for Cora Reilly for sure. So let me know in the comments box down below how much you think I should prioritise rounding out these 2 series. So there we are, that is 10 completed Mafia Romance series that I have not completed myself but I've started, so want to finish. If you have got any series that you started and you want to finish, let me know in the comments down below. And if you have read any of these series, completed any of them, let me know which is your favourite in the series. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, as always, please give me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me, and all that's left for me to do is thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.